Okay, let's get serious. If you had asked me after the first 2 hours with Nioh 3 what I thought of the game, I probably would have responded with a series of curse words worthy of a sailor. The enemies were kicking my ass like I owed them money, the menus made me feel like I needed a PhD to understand them, and the narrative tone jumped between epic historical drama and characters so melodramatic you can almost see the exclamation marks in the subtitles. But here I am, 100 hours later, writing this review with bags under my eyes and my index finger practically fused to the dodge button. What happened? Nioh 3 trapped me in a way I hadn't experienced since Elden Ring. Team Ninja has taken a massive leap with this third installment, abandoning the mission-based structure of its predecessors to throw us into an open world that, while not reaching From Software's mastery in organic design, compensates with content up to the brim. And when I say up to the brim, I mean this game has enough content to keep you busy until your gaming chair starts complaining. The story places us in 17th century Japan, where you, a shogun in waiting, are betrayed before you can assume your position. As if that wasn't bad enough, it turns out that yokai forces, basically Japanese demons on steroids, decide it's the perfect time to invade. The logical solution, of course, is to jump through time to save the land from darkness. It's a premise that sounds generic on paper, but works as a vehicle for what really matters, kicking demons in the face for 100 hours. The narrative is straightforward and presented through well-animated cutscenes, but it has a bit of a multiple personality problem. Sometimes it wants to be a serious historical drama, other times it presents you with characters so melodramatic you can almost see the exclamation marks in the subtitles. Voice acting ranges from acceptable to "this feels like Garth Marenghi's Dark Place," but honestly, after the 10th hour, you're so into the gameplay that you could be playing on mute and wouldn't notice the difference. This is where Nioh 3 gets interesting. The game abandons the linear mission structure of its predecessors and adopts what Team Ninja calls open fields. It's basically their version of Elden Ring, but with their own twist. We have 4 gigantic regions, each visually distinct with its own flavor. From green plains to snow-capped mountains, each zone is packed with side quests, optional bosses, and more collectibles than your inventory can handle without collapsing. And here comes the interesting part. Unlike Elden Ring, which lets you explore organically without map markers, Nioh 3 goes more Ubisoft style. You have a visible checklist and map markers to guide you to each point of interest. Some Souls purists might frown at this, but it works because every side activity is designed to reward you significantly. It's not filler for the sake of filler. Every dungeon, every optional boss, every little creature you find, everything contributes to making you more powerful. The open world design is formulaic, yes, you can see the Ubisoft pattern from miles away, but it turns out that when the content is genuinely fun and rewarding, the formula works. I spent hours deviating from the main quests just to clear the map, and it never felt like a chore. Every discovery feels important because in Nioh 3, every upgrade counts. A lot. Okay, this is where Nioh 3 really shines like a diamond polished with demon blood. Combat in this series has always been phenomenal, and the third installment takes it to a completely new level. You have 14 types of melee weapons, some say 17, but who's counting when you're busy beheading Oni, ranging from traditional samurai katanas to exotic weapons like tonfas. Yes, combat gloves that let you do capoeira combos that would make a Beyblade cry in shame. And sharp claws. The big novelty in Nioh 3 is the style shift system. Your character is divided into 2 playstyles, samurai and ninja. With just the press of a button, you instantly switch between them. The samurai style is classic Nioh, 3 stances to switch between, focusing on blocking and countering with the key pull system, stamina recovery, that defines combat rhythm. The ninja style, on the other hand, is faster and fragile with emphasis on dodging instead of blocking, and gives you access to ninjutsu abilities like shurikens and bombs. At first, this system can feel confusing. You basically have to relearn how to play Nioh because now you're constantly switching between 2 distinct forms of combat. But when it clicks, and trust me, it eventually clicks, it's absolutely glorious. Bosses are specifically designed around this system. Some attacks are better parried with the deflect parry exclusive to samurai style, while others are easier to dodge in ninja mode. Style shifting can also parry certain unblockable attacks, adding another layer of strategic depth. What makes all this work is how Nioh 3 rewards you for mastering both styles. You can charge your ninja to meter as a samurai, switch to ninja to throw a couple of shrapnel bombs, and then return to samurai for a devastating counterattack. Or you can specialize completely in one. I ended up playing almost exclusively as ninja in the last quarter of the game, thanks to the free respec system that lets you reorganize your stats whenever you want. Combat is fast, brutal, and spectacularly excessive in the best possible sense. Dark Souls may thrive in its gloomy atmosphere, but it will never let you do a backflip kick to rip a demon's head off while your guardian spirit shoots laser beams. Nioh 3 embraces spectacle without sacrificing mechanical depth, and that's a hard line to walk. This is where my enthusiasm cools a bit. Nioh 3 is packed with bosses, probably more than any other game of this type. But while in From Software games, bosses are defining moments he'll remember for years, in Nioh 3 they're more like battles of attrition. Many have absurdly inflated health bars, which favors hit-and-run tactics over actually learning their attack patterns.
They're visually impressive though. There are some absolutely bizarre and beautiful creatures you'll face, inspired by both Japanese folklore and designs that seem pulled from Bloodborne on acid. But most fights boil down to dodge, hit twice, repeat for 5 minutes. There are notable exceptions. One secret boss in particular requires Sekiro-worthy parry timing and took me more attempts than I'm willing to publicly admit. But overall, bosses are the game's weakest point. One boss early in the game with a fire spear and a lightning-fast horse represented my first real roadblock, and it was one of the few times a Nioh 3 boss reached Dark Souls quality. We need more bosses like that and fewer giant damage sponges with too much health. Prepare to spend hours in menus. Nioh 3 might have the most overwhelming number of upgrade trees and skills to level up in any game I've played. It's no exaggeration. Practically every 15 minutes of gameplay, you unlock a new upgrade path. There's the standard character level, but that's just the beginning. There are also your spirit guardians, skill trees for each combat style, individual skill trees for each weapon type, remember 14 types, and your blessings, which offer useful abilities like increased health restoration. It's a double-edged sword. On one hand, you're practically always getting stronger. Play for 15 minutes and you'll probably get an upgrade point to spend somewhere. On the other hand, keeping track of so many upgrade paths becomes tedious, and most importantly, ensuring your abilities synergize with each other requires a level of planning that would make a D&D player look improvised. And then there's the loot. So much loot. Every enemy, from the smallest trash mobs to the most fearsome bosses, drops piles of gear. Your inventory will quickly fill up with armor and weapons. Most of what you pick up will be too low level to be useful, but you can easily convert it into more useful resources, like upgrade materials. However, the inability to mark items as junk to sell is baffling and makes inventory management more cumbersome than necessary. Nioh 3 strikes a solid balance in terms of difficulty. If you fully explore each open zone before continuing down the golden path, you'll be well equipped to handle each new obstacle. But if you try to rush to the end, expect to quickly find yourself struggling against enemies that obliterate you in a few hits while your weapons barely scratch them. The difficulty curve is steep at first. The first bosses will repeatedly kick you until you learn the game's systems. But once you master combat flow, style shifting, and build your character appropriately, the game becomes manageable without ever losing that feeling of constant danger. One mistake can cost you your life even at level 200, but that's part of the charm. If you get stuck, you can always summon a co-op partner to help or activate an NPC companion to make the hardest encounters a little easier. However, in my experience, most bosses seem to completely ignore summonable allies in favor of targeting the player character, so you'll still need sharp dodging skills to survive more than a few seconds. As for how the game runs, my experience has been nearly flawless. I played through the entire game with every setting maxed out at 240 FPS, and I can count the times frames dropped on one hand. However, other players have reported choppier results, so your experience may vary significantly depending on your hardware setup, at least before patches start rolling out. Nioh 3 is an astonishingly large game. If you want to see all the sights and sounds of its corrupted historical Japan, you're going to need to set aside close to 100 hours. Just the first act alone took me almost 20 hours to complete, and that's only the beginning of the epic journey. Some friction points remain long-term. Menu management can be tedious, some bosses are over-tuned, and even on PS5 Pro, it's far from the most graphically impressive game I've played. Voice acting is uneven, and the story, while functional, isn't particularly memorable. But after a brief adjustment period to Nioh's particular brand of action RPG, I found myself falling more and more in love with each play session. The option-rich combat is exceptional, exploration is compelling, and players who enjoy creating a character build that fits their playstyle will be in heaven. The open world avoids being worthless filler by constantly rewarding your curiosity, and the ability to freely reset your stats means you can always experiment with new builds without regrets. Team Ninja has given From Software serious competition with this open-world Soulslike. It's not as refined as Elden Ring in terms of world design or memorable bosses, but in pure combat, mechanical depth, and absolute amount of quality content, Nioh 3 doesn't just compete, it sometimes wins. It's a game that respects your time by constantly making you more powerful, while never letting you forget that death is just one mistake away. Is it perfect? No. Is it the first must-play game of 2026? Absolutely. If you have the patience to get through the difficult first few hours and are willing to invest in mastering its systems, Nioh 3 will reward you with some of the best combat in the action RPG genre and enough content to keep you busy until the next big game comes out, which will probably be another Souls-like because that's the world we live in now. Nioh 3 is everything I wanted from a sequel to Nioh 2, and somehow so much more. It's not just one of the best Souls-likes to date, it's an experience that defines the genre and sets a new standard for what these games can achieve when they dare to think big. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have to get back. Those demons aren't going to kill themselves, and my index finger has finally regained feeling.